Hi guys, welcome. My name is Ilya from TaxDome, and we're going to have a webinar on new reporting functionality and go over specific reports that you can now do to manage your firm more effectively. So let's get started. So what are we going to cover today? The first thing is, what is a report and how you can create them inside of TaxDome. We're going to cover saved filters, which is new functionality, and UI. UI means user interface updates. So basically, that means how pretty it looks, how usable it is. We're going to discuss exporting options, how that works, how you can do it. And then we're going to go into actual sample reports. That's where the name of this webinar comes from, is 13 reports. We're going to cover Q&A and future plans. We're going to show you kind of where we see this growing with time. So thank you, and let's get started. So the first question is, what are reports? And in general, a report is simply information that you need to know about your firm. Now, whether that is information about money, whether that's information about a team member's performance, clients that meet certain characteristics, those are all reports that you can generate. Now, you can generate those reports by filtering for the information that you need. So you can see some examples on the right. If you want to find all of your 1040 clients, you can filter for that. If you want to find time worked by an accountant last month, you can filter for that and get that report. Many more different reports that you can generate, but in overall, a report is simply pieces of data of information that you can have about your firm, about a specific part of your firm that you can get through TaxDome. One thing that's this is really kind of the meat and potatoes of this is huge, is every firm has different needs, and every firm has different reports they may want to generate. And although we give you some generic ones on the right, say overdue jobs or weekly time, but you may have specific reports and specific functionality that you want for your firm. And it took a lot of clicks, because each time you'd want to do it, you'd have to go to that area, filter maybe by many different parameters. It was annoying. Now you can have saved filters. So we call them templates, but really save filters that you can do to create a template once and save time. So after that, whatever complicated report you want to create, you can now save it and access it at any time that you want afterwards. So this is really big in terms of saving time, saving clicks, and you can create these save filters in all of these different places that you see here across the system. This will be super helpful in you determining exactly what you want to see and making it easy for you to get that information over and over again as time change, obviously the data changes and so forth. Now, when you create a save filter, you can decide whether you want to make it public. A public filter simply means that it will be accessible for the rest of your team, as opposed to just you. And it's really helpful, especially if you have a team. You might create a complicated filter and allow the rest of your team to see it as well. Or if you're a manager, for example, maybe you want to see overdue reports by specific team members, you might not want to share that with the rest of your team. You might just want to keep that to yourself. So that's really the only difference between a save filter, and non-public. So let's talk about some user interface updates and kind of how that works. So the main difference that has been changed now is, it used to be the way that when you created a filter and then you say you clicked into a client, as you're seeing in this image, when you clicked back, either in your browser or in the screen, the filter would drop. This was annoying because let's say you had a complicated filter and you had a result of 10 client accounts that you wanted to look to, you would lose that each time you clicked back. So it was really time intensive. It was really, quite frankly, annoying. That's no longer the case. So now, as you're seeing on the screen, when you go into an account after you've applied a filter and you click back, that filter will stay intact. So let's say if you filtered for, as you're seeing here, clients of Amber Smith, you're going to see that here every time you go back, it's not going to drop the filter. So the filter is going to stay there until you click the reset button at the bottom right corner, as you're seeing there. So this really is a really big difference for when you're filtering for information and you need to actually analyze that information, not just see it. So that's number one. And the other thing that you're seeing is everything's in the right sidebar. So you're going to see that across the board in many different places. Anywhere that you don't see that, you will see that with time, but everything's going to be going to the right sidebar so you don't lose context. And if you notice, if you see at the top right corner where it says save as template, that's how you can save a template in all these places. You can make as complicated filter as you want, click save, and then go back to that template anytime you need in the future. Carlos has a great question. We'll cover that in the Q&A afterwards. So now let's talk about printing and exporting information. So let's say you create a report, however complicated that is that you might be, and you get a list of clients, whether that's 5, 10, 100 clients, or list of 100 jobs and so forth. you might want to extract that information and bring it to some other system, whether that's Excel to analyze it further, or you like to work with paper and you might want to just print it. So now you can do both of those. So you can print extracted data, or you can click export, which will create a CSV file for you to export to analyze the information in CSV in the future. So you can do that as well. And that will go to your email, because depending on the size of the report that you're creating, it might take half a second, or it might take 5 seconds or 10 seconds, depending on the size of it. So that's why it'll go to your email in that case as soon as the report is done. But main thing is there, if you think of the filter that we just talked about, anytime you click export, it will take into account the information that you have in front of you. So if you filter for, let's say, Amber's clients that have overdue signatures, and you get a list of 10 clients and you click export, the export will be those 10 clients and not your entire client list. So any applied filters, that's what will take into account of the export information. So let's go through a couple of reports and how they work, just to give actual practical examples here. So very simply, we have account access. And let's say you just want to filter for accounts that a certain member of my team has access to. So go to client accounts, filter by team member, and choose Bart Simpson, for example, and you're going to get all of the clients that Bart has access to. Now, why is this helpful? Because after that, you can then do bulk actions. You might want to reassign those clients to someone else. You might want to send them a message and say, I'm sorry, Bart is out sick this week. Mary's going to take over for them, and so forth and so forth. So after you filter for the information that you need, then you can do all these bulk actions. You might want to reassign them. You might want to create a job for them and remove access. You could do all these different things only to those specific subset of information. Another one, also working with client accounts, you might want to filter for tags. So obviously tags are a really crucial feature that we've been growing more and more in TaxDome, and obviously they take into account automations and conditions and so forth. So you can filter for accounts that have specific service tags, which you can create and customize as you see fit. So for example, you want to find all clients that have a tag of 1040, you can do that. Then you might want to, like we said earlier, create a job for them, assign them to a specific member of your team, send a message, and so forth and so forth. Let's say you want to find all your clients that you're waiting for a signature for them. You can filter for signatures. Now, partially signed means if you've sent it to 2 people and only 1 person has signed it, then that's a partially signed, and pending signature means that all outstanding signatures have not been actioned yet. So using this, you can filter for that type of all those accounts where you're waiting for somebody to sign. And again, all of these reports that we're talking about, you can create a save filter for all of these to get access to in the future. Now, also kind of sneak peek update, anything that we view as super important, such as clients pending signatures, this will be in a direct access for you in the redesigned dashboard that we're working on. Completely separate from this, but just kind of a little sneak peek there is that in the redesigned dashboard, you'll be able to see all the pending signatures through a quick link on your dashboard as well. Okay, so let's look at team management. Let's say you have people that do time entries, track time inside of TaxDome. So you can filter for all the time entries in your system. So for example, if we go to invoices, time entries, then you can search by, let's say, Edgar. I want to see all of the time entries that Edgar has logged in the last month. You can do that. This specific report is going to be across all clients, but any time entries that Edgar has reported in your system. Now, if you wanted to go even a little further and you wanted to say, I want to see all of Edgar's time entries, but for a specific account. So I want to see not just all the time tracked by Edgar in the last month, but all the time tracked by Edgar for Acme Corporation, you can do that as well. And then again, you can export this information to Excel to analyze further, or to pay them, or to do whatever it is that you might want to do with them afterwards. Again, you can save these as saved filters as well. If this is something you're commonly doing, let's say at the end of the month, you want to know how much you owe Edgar, you can do that as well. Now, this report that we're showing here is if you add tags to client accounts, you might want to see, I want to see all of the time tracked by Edgar for my 1040 accounts in the last month. While this might seem kind of a little repetitive, we're just trying to get across that they're fully customizable to your needs, and that you can filter and generate the report across many, many, many different parameters, whatever is important for you and your firm. So these are all just the different elements within TaxDome that you can filter by. Any combination of them can be used to generate a report so you get the information that you need. Let's look at some practice management reports. So let's say you want to see all of the jobs that are assigned to Amber with a due date in the next month. or this month rather. You can do that as well. And in the future, you're going to be able to replace the absolute due dates. Right here, this report says you have to put in February 1st to February 28th, but maybe you might want to save a report that says, I want to see all of the jobs due this month or this week that are assigned to Amber, and save that as a save filter. You'll be able to do that. So right now you just are able to do absolute dates, but in the future, you'll be able to replace that with relative dates as well. Same thing, tasks. You might want to look, let's say you're a manager, you want to say, okay, I want to make sure, want to see what's outstanding, who's doing it. You can filter your tasks that are overdue. What does overdue mean? Simply that the due date has passed. And then from there, you can then do the same way as with the client accounts. You can do bulk actions such as reassign these tasks to somebody else. Maybe somebody just didn't mark them off as done for some reason, right? You might want to bulk action and change their status to complete. Or you might want to delete them if they're no longer necessary, or maybe change the due date to next week, change the priority, anything that you really want to do, but you'll be able to do them in bulk once you filter for the information that you need. Recurring job status. So for example, you want to find all of the jobs that were started in the last month. Oftentimes this will be your recurring jobs. So if you have, let's say, jobs that recur on a bi-weekly basis, you'll be able to find, okay, I want to find all the bookkeeping jobs for Acme Corp in the last 2 weeks, find them, be able to sort them, do whatever it is that you need to afterwards. Let's go to invoices now. Let's say you want to find all of the unpaid receivables that are in your system. So meaning invoices that you've created. In this scenario, we're looking at invoices that were created in January that are either unpaid or overdue for a specific service. So let's say your firm does bookkeeping, 1040s, tax planning, resolution, and part-time CFO. All of those could be services that you link to invoices. In this case, you can filter for all the invoices that were created last month that are unpaid for 1040 specifically. And then maybe you might want to reach out to them, send another reminder to anything that you want to do, but this way you'll be able to get that information as well. Again, all of these are fully customizable to you, and you can save them if they're reports that you're consistently, you're doing over and over. You can save these as templates either for yourself or for your firm to use, so you can access them really quickly in the future as well. If we look at the same scenario, if we look at invoices and we want to find all of the invoices issued to a specific client in the last month, that's another example of something that you can do as well as you're shown here. Same exact thing. Let's say you want to find, actually, instead of outstanding revenue, let's say you want to find received revenue. So in this instance, instead of looking for unpaid invoices, you can make the status paid and say, actually, I want to understand how much revenue did I get from my 1040s in January? And then you can analyze that further. Now, let's say you want to find clients that are waiting payment, but also have a job in a specific status. So for example, let's say your firm does not do automated invoices with TaxDome. Let's say you want to create an invoice in another system, or even if you do them inside of TaxDome, either way, if you've created stages in your pipeline that you understand that if a client is in this stage, I am waiting to get paid. You want to find that, you want to locate all of those jobs. You can find all of those clients with all those jobs by doing this, where you can filter your client accounts by pipeline and in a specific stage. So let's say you have 2,000 clients in your 1040 return pipeline, and of those, maybe 40 you're waiting to get paid. You can find those clients by using this report. Same exact idea, filter by the pipeline, but then not just clients in a specific stage, but clients with outstanding invoices inside of TaxDome. These are just different iterations of the same thing, but we're just trying to get across. These are all different tools that you can use to get the information that you need across your clients, across your invoices, across your time entries. And you can create additional filters as much as you want to create the exact report that you want. So let's talk a little bit about future improvements, and this will cover, I think, some of the questions that were here. So we will be adding in a filter template libraries best practices, because again, there are many reports that are useful to all firms and which you'll be able to customize as well. So the same way that we have a library for pipeline templates and message templates and contract templates that you can use and then modify them as you wish, you'll have the exact same thing in the filter template library. We plan on adding those as well. As mentioned, a lot of these reports that are time specific, they're about absolute dates, right? So you have to say January 1st to January 31st, but that can get annoying because you're gonna have to keep modifying it, especially if you save the filter. We understand that. So we will be adding in relative dates to this. So past 30 days, past 7 days, this week, this month, and so forth. So you can create a filter that you won't have to modify as time changes. So that's going to be a big help in the future that we plan to add on as well. The other thing that we're currently analyzing as well is all of these reports, they're generated in the area of the system that you're looking for. If you want to get a report about invoices, you have to go to the invoices section. If you want to get a report about your clients, you have to go to the client section. If you want to get a report about time entries, you have to go there, and so forth and so forth. We understand that, and we're currently doing a bunch of research of whether we should create a completely separate area simply called reporting, where you'll be able to run all of these reports from one place instead of having to go to the specific area to action those reports. So that's something we're looking at. And finally, that we're also looking at is adding in additional logic. So all these reports right now work from a and function. So if you say, I want to find clients that have this tag and this and that, they're all and, right? So you're not able to filter for, I want to find clients that are not assigned to Bob that have a pending invoice, for example. You can't do that because everything is and. We do plan on adding in more additional logic to these reports so you can make them more and more complex to meet the needs of your system. All right, so let's address some of the Q&A that's been coming in here. Carlos is asking about the saved filter library. We just covered that, so I hope that answers your question, Carlos. Will this data integrate with Zapier? So Zapier is a system that allows two other systems to communicate with each other. So for example, Zapier allows TaxDome to communicate with your Microsoft Outlook or your Google Sheets, even though there's no direct integration with them. And the way Zapier works is it looks at triggers. So when X happens in TaxDome, I use Zapier to make Y happen in Outlook. When I update the phone number of a contact inside of TaxDome, I use Zapier to make sure that my Outlook contact is synced the exact same way. But the trigger is the change in the contact. So if there are specific things that you want in Zapier to send to other systems, we need from you to let us know what triggers you want that will help us to understand the data. So when X happens, Y happens. And then Zapier is just a conduit for that. So please put in the feature request board specific triggers that you want, that when X happens, I want something to happen in a different system. Will custom fields be included in filtering? So the filtering is based upon the parameters of the accounts that you have as well. The custom account information is not a parameter technically, but I think that's a fantastic idea. And if you can put that in a feature request, Dennis, we can do that. But the one issue there is that you'd have a massive list of them. You'd have to create a system to find specific information of those. Definitely useful, but please put that in the feature request board. Can you add payments received outside of TaxDome into TaxDome to get added to the report? So you can do that now. If you receive a payment outside of TaxDome, somebody brings you a check or a bag of cash, you can record that inside of TaxDome as an offline payment. Simply click plus new payment, and then you can put offline, and then you can indicate whether it's a cash or check, add in the additional information that you want, and then that will get added to the report in TaxDome of any invoices that you have. So the reports on invoices will take into account both offline payments that you receive from outside of TaxDome and payments inside of TaxDome. Will we be able to add our favorite reports that are standard predefined? So that's something we're looking at as well. The first iteration will have the reports that we've determined are the most important. So for example, pending signatures, pending invoice, overdue, and so forth. So there's a whole list of those that we have, but we do plan on incorporating the same filter template idea into those reports because again, every firm is different. Every firm might have slightly different. So that's the idea there. So the answer is yes, but not in V1 for that dashboard because the first thing will be ours. Can you explain the differentiate between partialized and pending signatures? If one or two has signed, that would be partially signed. Would that same account also show? Yes. So partially signed, like we said, is if you send it to two spouses, spouse one signs, spouse two does not, it would say partially signed. If neither of the spouse signed, it would say pending signature, meaning that you're pending it from both scenarios. And you can see about that information in our help area about signatures and about what those labels all indicate as well. Unpaid over 30 days. So yes, you should be able to do that. Simply filter by, well, the other thing is, Matt, what you can do is if 30 days is the important thing for you, is you can modify the overdue day to be considered 30 days, for example. So whatever it is you consider in your system to be the line of demarcation, you can then put that in your firm settings there. And anything past that, you can filter for invoices there. You can filter for the invoices that are over a certain amount and so forth. Well, hope that this was helpful. And again, there will be more coming out of this, but really wanted to get this out there and kind of explain the logic and walk you through some of these reports that you can now create in TaxDome. So thank you guys so much.